This is Dr. Lee, and this is a tutorial of tips on how to work with your signature assignment in EDOL 755. I'll spend most of my time covering how to display your data, how to draw conclusions, and share with you some best practices. So let me start off by saying that what you have been doing in 754 and 755 um, are a series of tasks leading up to drawing conclusions, which is covered in your signature assignment. So little pieces of what you have done, even as early as 754, literally 8 weeks ago, is leading up to this culminating activity where you're drawing conclusions. And so let's recap where you are in the sequence of it all. You've gathered data in Module 2. You've gathered data that led you to code the data in Module 3. And here we are in Module 4, where you're going to analyze the themes that you coded and the frequency counts in order to then draw some conclusions. And what I'm going to do is take you through an example from one of the Alpha students' dissertation. So I'm going to show you Dr. Alma Flores' dissertation, just a few excerpts from it. So Dr. Flores did a study on best practices for cohort mentors in the Brandman program. And here is just a quick table of her themes, number of sources where those themes came from. And remember, sources can be interviews, observations, or artifacts, and the overall number of references. So she coded this in NVivo. And so let's take, for example, the first theme, which is builds trust through congruency of character, integrity, and transparency. That was evidenced in 23 different sources, and references totaled 785 times, okay? And she coded that using NVivo. So I just want to take a few minutes to kind of showcase the overall end result of coding. And so once the data is coded, you then can start working with um, displaying the data, which is step 5 of your signature assignment, presentation of data, which then leads to step 6, which is drawing conclusions. Okay. So a good resource for this is the dissertation tip, writing conclusions and implications for actions PDF that Dr. Larrick put together. And I just want to highlight a couple of key points from that PDF. Um, on it, it says most doctoral students find the last section of the dissertation difficult for several reasons. The conclusions, recommendations, and reflections are at the end of the research and writing process, and they are tied. They are tired, and creativity is running low. The typical mindset of getting this done sets in, and dissertation students have been so focused on data, citations, and analysis, etc., that they've been told that they don't have an opportunity, they don't have an opinion unless it is supported by data. So everything leading up to this point is nothing but the facts. It's nothing but the facts in your literature review, your data, the presentation of your data. But when you start getting into the analysis and the conclusion, and also in your dissertation, the implications for action, now your professional opinion can actually be displayed, and you need to tap into your creative mind and try to draw some high-level conclusions based on the data that you analyzed. Okay. So what's a conclusion? Conclusion, according to Webster's dictionary, is reason, judgment, inferences based on evidence, final summation. A conclusion is a result, issues, or outcome settlement, or arrangement. A conclusion is the last part of something, it's the end result. Okay. So I want to highlight something for you that is this idea that when you draw conclusions, it's not a restating of the finding. Okay, so if the finding is 83% of your sample reported that having trusting relationships with their supervisors and coworkers is their top priority in job retention, then a conclusion based on the finding could be, in order to retain qualified professionals, organizations need to develop strategies that will build trust and strengthen relationships amongst supervisors and coworkers. So notice the very subtle difference between a finding and a conclusion, right? A conclusion is based on the finding. Okay, so again, a warning is don't confuse a conclusion with a restating of the finding. Okay, um, so in the case of Dr. Flores' dissertation, we'll work with the first finding, which is cohort mentors builds trust through congruency of character, integrity, and transparency. So her conclusion based on that is doctoral mentors must build trust through congruency of character, integrity, and transparency in order to help mentees, which are the students, develop their transformational leadership skills. Okay. And so if we take a look at your signature assignment, and I'm going to draw your attention to step number 5, which is the presentation of data. It says that you should launch the presentation of data with a table of the themes and their frequency counts. You should then, following the table, have headings for each of the themes. And then for each of the themes, um, discuss the following 3 things. Frequency count for the theme. What does it mean? 15 of the 15 respondents said ... as an example. Or 4 of the 8 respondents alluded to ... So what does the frequency counts mean in narrative form? Triangulation of data can also be leveraged here. So does the data come from multiple sources? So in other words, if respondents said something, does the data, is it also evidenced in the observations and or the artifacts? And if so, discuss that here. So an example is, while 15 out of 15 respondents said XYZ, there was also, this was also observed 3 times and appeared in 3 artifacts. Okay, so triangulation of data comes into play. And then your narrative explanation of the themes, and I'm going to unpack that for you next. Okay. So this is literally out of Dr. Flores's dissertation. So she launches the presentation of data with a table of all the major themes. Okay, and when she says, you know, this idea of building trust through congruency of character, which is the parent theme, she then went into child themes and came up with 6. And so she then went into the child themes and displayed those 6 child themes and displayed in numeric form on this table how many references were made and the number of sources they came from. And that totaled 514, as you can see here. So next she launched into a narrative analysis of those 500 or so themes, and she says, one of the sub-themes is demonstrates a commitment to both group and individual development. And I want to point out something for you here. She builds in numeric analysis into her narrative. So she says this sub-theme was referenced 152 times across 36 sources. And she referenced table 14, which is the table that she presented just a few minutes ago. In addition to the numeric analysis, she also weaves in there some of the best quotes from her data. Now, in the case of Dr. Flores, with all of her interviews, observations, she had hundreds and hundreds of pages of raw data. Well, you can't possibly copy and paste everything into your dissertation, all the data. So she needed to go through her evidence and really pull out the best of the best quotes. Okay, and if you remember last week, the NVivo webinar, that export function is a quick and easy way to get to the best of the best quotes for each of the themes. Okay, so if you exported the themes, all the quotes are in one place. Read through those quotes and pick some of the best quotes to incorporate. So I say stories, incorporate stories from your data, because I really think that's one of the strengths of doing qualitative research is your ability to retell authentic stories from the field. And so she has from Mentee 2 a block quote that really highlights the essence of this theme of demonstrating a commitment to both group and individual development. Okay. So just some final reminders on drawing conclusions. Don't confuse a conclusion with a restating of the finding. Dissertation students have been so focused on data citation, etc. When you get to conclusions, this is your opportunity to finally have your professional opinion, and so I encourage you to be creative with that. And then you should download and review the dissertation tip PDF, and it's titled "Writing Conclusions and Implications for Action." I'm going to pull up just two things to showcase for you, and then we'll wrap up. So this is just an excerpt from Dr. Flores' dissertation. It's not her entire dissertation, but I wanted to show you this idea that a finding leads to a conclusion, and there's a direct connection. Perhaps a better way to think about it is lineage, right? So a conclusion isn't just dreamed up from nowhere. A conclusion is based on a finding from your study, and so her finding is building trust through congruency, and so that's the finding. And this is again just a quick showcasing of how she wrote up the narrative. Lots of block quotes, and then we get to the conclusion. So her conclusion one, which I showcased earlier, is based on the finding one, and there's a direct connection there. And so in her conclusion, she has a title and then just a short explanation of what that conclusion is. Okay, I wanted to showcase that for you. And the other thing I want to showcase for you is the dissertation tip and writing conclusions and implication for action PDF that Dr. Larrick created. This is one of the most important documents. You need to be very familiar with it now and also in your dissertation writing. Dr. Larrick goes into a very in-depth explanation of what a conclusion is. And then he walks you through some very good examples. And then you don't have to do it for your signature assignment, but for your dissertation, you also have to write out what are called implications for action. So what are some implications for actions that you can develop based on your conclusions? And again, I want to point out that the implications also has lineage back to your conclusions, which then has lineage back to your coding and the themes that emerge from your data. Okay, so hopefully that was helpful, and you can get the PDF from the website, and you can also look up Dr. Flores' dissertation in ProQuest.